Picture this. You're in a grand arena where individuals from all walks of life compete for success. Some play with integrity, putting in tireless effort while staying true to their morals. Others deceive, manipulate, and step on anyone who stands in their way. Strangely enough, it often seems like the ruthless ones surge ahead while the honorable remain stuck in place. Why does the world seem to reward those who abandon morality? History, politics, and business alike tell the same story. Powerful figures rise not through kindness, but through cunning. From ancient warlords who conquer nations without remorse, to modern tycoons who exploit loopholes and manipulate markets, a clear pattern emerges. But this is not a random occurrence. It is a fundamental reality of human nature and social structures. Resources are limited and competition is relentless. In such an environment, those who hesitate in the name of fairness are often outpaced. Those willing to manipulate and dominate climb the highest. This leads to an unsettling question. Is morality a liability in the pursuit of power? Yet history also teaches another lesson. Many of these individuals ultimately fall. The question isn't just why they succeed, but whether their success can last. And even more crucially, where does that leave those who refuse to abandon their principles in the pursuit of power? To understand this paradox, we must explore the very essence of power itself. Power is neither good nor evil. It simply exists as an undeniable force shaping human interactions. Some philosophers argue that power is the driving force of history, dictating who rises and who falls. One of the most controversial thinkers on this subject was Friedrich Nietzsche, who proposed that morality itself is not a universal truth, but a creation of power struggles. He described two fundamental approaches to morality: master morality and slave morality. Imagine two sailors lost at sea. One takes control of the situation, using his knowledge and instincts to chart a course, taking whatever risks necessary to survive. The other waits, hoping the ocean will show mercy, following rules even when they serve no purpose. Which one is more likely to reach land? This thought experiment mirrors Nietzsche's perspective on how power operates in human society. Master morality, as Nietzsche described it, is the moral code of the strong, leaders, conquerors, and visionaries. It values ambition, strength, courage, and the power to shape the world according to one's own vision. Those who embody master morality do not seek approval or wait for permission. They carve their own path and impose their will upon reality. They see challenges as opportunities and never perceive weakness as something to be protected. It is simply an obstacle to overcome. Their confidence and decisiveness give them an undeniable edge, making them natural leaders who command influence and respect. History is filled with such figures, from rulers who shaped empires to innovators who disrupted entire industries by refusing to play by conventional rules. They recognize that power is not something to be granted by others. It is seized by those bold enough to take it. What does this mean for us? Should we abandon morality completely and embrace a path of ruthless ambition? Or is there a way to balance strength and virtue? To answer this, we must examine the mindset of those who rise to power, the ones who refuse to accept fate as an unchangeable force. Imagine a vast, chaotic ocean where survival isn't dictated by fairness or kindness, but by resilience, strategy, and the ability to adapt. A shark does not hesitate before striking. A wildfire does not apologize for its destruction. Nature does not reward morality. It rewards those who can endure, who can command, and who refuse to be swept away by the tides of weakness. Human civilization operates under layers of rules and ethics. Yet beneath this facade, the fundamental struggle remains the same. Those who rise to dominance often possess a defining characteristic: the ability to act without hesitation. This does not necessarily mean cruelty or malice, but rather an unshakable will to do what is necessary, regardless of discomfort. This is not a coincidence. It is an evolutionary trait that has propelled individuals, kingdoms, and empires to seize control in a world where hesitation invites defeat. While societies romanticize fairness, history reveals that power is rarely won by those who wait their turn. Psychological studies on leadership and influence repeatedly identify key traits among those who achieve dominance: an unrelenting drive, a reduced sensitivity to fear, and often a detachment from emotions that might slow decision-making. This does not imply that all successful individuals lack empathy, but many cultivate a mindset that allows them to act without being paralyzed by the emotional weight of consequences. Throughout history, we see this pattern emerge in figures who reshaped the world, from Napoleon Bonaparte to influential corporate leaders who built empires from nothing. The lesson is clear: waiting for permission is a fool's errand. True power is seized, not granted. The ambitious do not ask if they are allowed to lead. They step forward, take risks, and embrace the repercussions. This is why those with an unyielding mindset rise while the hesitant remain in the shadows. However, there is a critical paradox to consider. Ruthlessness alone is not enough. Many who climb to the peak of power, driven solely by dominance, eventually suffer catastrophic falls. The very qualities that enable ascent can also pave the way for ruin. A ruler who governs through fear alone will eventually be consumed by the chaos they once controlled. History is filled with fallen leaders who believed they were invincible until the moment they weren't. Those who wield power without wisdom often become victims of their own unchecked ambition. But if power is often seized by those who prioritize strategy over morality, does this mean that fairness and virtue are destined to fail? Not necessarily. To understand why, we must challenge one of the greatest illusions of society: the belief that the world is fair. From a young age, we are taught an appealing but misleading narrative that goodness will always be rewarded, that justice is inevitable, and that hard work guarantees success. Religious doctrines, folk tales, and moral philosophies reinforce this comforting idea. Yet as we step into adulthood, we encounter a brutal contradiction. The most diligent workers are not always the richest, the most ethical individuals do not always lead, and those with the kindest hearts often suffer the most. This is not an error in the system, it is the system. Fairness, as many perceive it, is more of a social construct than an objective reality. It is an idea designed to promote order and cooperation, but it does not dictate the outcomes of power and success. Psychological research has long explored the just world fallacy, the mistaken belief that life naturally rewards virtue and punishes wrongdoing. This mindset is dangerous because it breeds passivity. If we assume that good intentions alone will lead to achievement, we risk ignoring the harsh truths of strategy, competition, and influence. While some people wait for justice, those who refuse to be bound by illusion are already taking action. In the end, the world does not reward the most deserving, it rewards those who understand how to navigate its unspoken rules. Is morality an illusion? Does power alone dictate who wins and who loses? If the world is built on competition, should we abandon our principles to get ahead? Not exactly. The key lies not in blind submission or ruthless ambition, but in understanding the game without being enslaved by it. Many who suffer the most are those who assume fairness is guaranteed, that playing by the rules will naturally lead to success. But reality tells a different story. The true winners are those who master both strategy and integrity, who wield kindness not as a weakness but as a force. They do not merely follow the rules, they shape them. Justice is not something passively received, it is built, carved into existence by those with the will to claim it. To expect fairness in a world designed around power is naive. To create fairness, however, is the path of the truly powerful. This struggle is not new. Throughout history, thinkers have wrestled with the tension between morality and power, but few have tackled it as directly as Friedrich Nietzsche. He rejected both blind obedience and senseless cruelty, pointing instead to a higher path, a way to transcend limitations and rise beyond imposed morality. His answer was the Übermensch, an individual who does not conform to the expectations of the weak, nor succumb to the tyranny of the strong. This person does not live under illusions. They see reality for what it is and embrace the responsibility of shaping it. The Übermensch does not passively accept meaning from others, but carves out their own. In Nietzsche's view, true greatness is not inherited or bestowed by society, it is seized by those with the courage to break free from convention. This idea remains as radical today as when it was first introduced, challenging us to ask, are we willing to move beyond our limitations, or will we remain shackled by the fears of the masses? Imagine standing before an ancient labyrinth, its endless corridors twisting into the unknown. Behind you lies the familiar, a world bound by routine, by unspoken rules, by the weight of convention. Ahead is something entirely different, a path without guidance, where every step is a choice and every choice carries consequences. Most people hesitate at this threshold. Fear keeps them rooted in place. Doubt convinces them that the path is too dangerous, too uncertain. But a rare few step forward. These are the ones who rewrite the rules, who refuse to let others define their existence. They are the architects of their own reality, walking not in the footsteps of others, but carving a path where none existed before. This is the essence of the Übermensch, not a conqueror of others, but a conqueror of self. What does it mean to overcome oneself? It does not mean brute force or blind dominance. It means refusing to be a victim of fate. It means rejecting the idea that morality is dictated by others, that success must follow a prescribed script. The Übermensch is not bound by outdated traditions or inherited guilt. They do not wait for permission to act, nor do they seek validation in the eyes of the crowd. At the heart of this philosophy is the will to power, not a hunger for control over others, but the relentless drive to shape one's own life. Those who passively accept meaning from the world live at the mercy of forces beyond their control. The Übermensch, however, imposes meaning onto the chaos, creating something entirely new. They do not cling to the past, they build the future. Contrast this with those who climb through manipulation, deceit, and force. The world is filled with figures who seize power through fear, who dominate for the sake of their own insecurities. They rise, but only temporarily. Their power is dependent on the submission of others, on external validation, on maintaining control over those beneath them. But the truly transcendent do not play that game. They do not need to crush others to prove their worth. Their strength is not found in domination, but in creation. They do not simply take, they build. They do not rule through fear, they inspire through vision. The tyrants and manipulators may seem powerful, but their victories are fragile, their reigns temporary. The Übermensch, however, is untouchable, because their power comes from within. It is not given, and it cannot be taken away. But how does one embody this? How do you rise above a system designed to reward ruthlessness without becoming ruthless yourself? The answer is in redefining power. Power is not inherently evil. It is a tool, a force to be understood and wielded. Those who ignore this truth are at the mercy of those who do not. To navigate a world where competition is fierce, where success often favors those who abandon their conscience, one must learn to be both strategic and unwavering in their principle. The world does not wait for the kind-hearted, but kindness does not mean weakness. It is possible to be strong without being cruel, to be ambitious without being deceptive. True power is mastery over oneself, the ability to act with purpose, to choose one's battles, and to shape the world without being consumed by it. Picture yourself in a high-stakes game. The players around you are ruthless, making decisions based on self-interest alone. If you assume fairness will protect you, you will lose. This is how many enter business, politics, or even personal relationships, expecting justice in a world that rewards those who take. The truly wise do not fall into this trap. They see reality clearly, yet they do not surrender to cynicism. They compete, but they do so on their own terms. They refuse to compromise their core values, not out of naivety, but out of strength. The world is not fair, but that does not mean you must play a dishonest game. Instead, it means you must become a player capable of shaping the game itself. And that is the path of the Übermensch, not to abandon morality, but to rise above it, to create something greater than what was given. Most people fall into the trap of believing they have only two choices in life, either dominate or be dominated. This false dilemma blinds them to a third and far more powerful option, the path of strategic wisdom. True strength lies not in ruthless aggression, nor in passive submission, but in the ability to navigate power with intelligence and integrity. Friedrich Nietzsche never championed blind brutality. Instead, he advocated for transcending weakness while remaining true to oneself. Mastering power is not about succumbing to its seduction, but about understanding its mechanics and using it as a tool rather than a master. Those who fail to grasp this reality remain bound by forces they do not control, forever at the mercy of stronger wills. One of the greatest misconceptions people have is expecting life to operate on fairness. The truth is, fairness is not a universal law. It is a human construct, often disregarded by those who shape the world. The most effective individuals accept this early and adapt accordingly. This does not mean abandoning moral principles. It means recognizing that power, like fire, can be destructive or constructive depending on how it is wielded. Those who thrive are not necessarily the ones who are kindest, but those who understand the balance between ethics and strategy. Consider the chess master. While their opponent may expect generosity, the true player calculates moves in advance, anticipating deception, and positioning themselves for victory. Success is rarely handed out. It is taken through preparation, precision, and the courage to act. Many struggle because they assume goodwill alone will lead to triumph. But the world does not reward mere good intentions. It rewards those who pair them with insight and execution. To navigate power effectively, one must learn to read people, not to manipulate, but to anticipate and counter those who exploit kindness as a weakness. Fear is the invisible chain that binds most people. Fear of failure, fear of criticism, fear of standing alone. This is why so many remain in toxic situations, accept mediocrity, or silence themselves when their voice is needed most. But those who rise above do so because they develop internal fortitude. Nietzsche's ideal, what he called the Übermensch, is not a tyrant, but an individual who refuses to be controlled by fear. To embody this, one must embrace discomfort, take risks, and be willing to walk alone when necessary. The greatest achievements in history did not come from those who waited for approval. They came from those who forged ahead despite resistance. Think of the pioneers, the visionaries, the leaders who defied convention. They were not reckless, but intentional, making choices that others lacked the courage to make. Those who thrive do not ask for permission to succeed. They create pathways where none exist, knowing that power does not belong to those who wait, but to those who seize the moment. There is a stark difference between reckless cruelty and calculated decisiveness. The former destroys without thought, while the latter makes necessary choices without hesitation. Power demands the ability to walk away from harmful relationships, make unpopular decisions, and confront hard truths. This is not heartlessness, it is strength. Those who rise too quickly through exploitation often fall just as fast, for power built on deception is fragile. True leaders build rather than destroy. They contribute rather than simply take. Whether in business, art, philosophy, or self-development, those who create lasting value become indispensable. The ruthless may achieve short-term victories, but sustainable success comes from those who cultivate power through mastery rather than manipulation. When you offer something irreplaceable, people seek you out, not because you coerce them, but because your influence is undeniable. So, in a world that often seems to reward the ruthless, can one succeed without sacrificing integrity? Absolutely, but only by abandoning outdated beliefs about fairness and learning to navigate power on one's own terms. And this leads to a deeper question. Is power itself corrupt, or is it simply misunderstood? Power is the force that shapes societies, careers, and personal destinies, yet its nature is neither good nor evil. It is the intention behind its use that defines its impact. Nietzsche saw power not as mere domination, but as creation, an ever-evolving force that drives progress. The pursuit of power should not be about crushing others, but about surpassing personal limits, defying stagnation, and striving toward one's highest potential. Those who embrace this mindset do not see power as an external force to fear, but as an internal fire to cultivate. And those who master it shape the world, not by taking from others, but by becoming more than they ever imagined possible. Power has always been a force of transformation, yet history reveals a troubling pattern. Those who acquire it often lose themselves in the process. Kings who once vowed justice became ruthless tyrants. Visionaries who aspired to uplift humanity fell into the trap of self-indulgence. And revolutionaries who sought freedom ended up building new chains. This contradiction makes us question, is power an inherently corrupting force, or does it merely strip away the facade and reveal the deepest truths of human nature? Philosophers like Nietzsche saw power differently, not as a weapon to control others, but as an internal fire, a will to surpass oneself, to redefine existence without submitting to the rules imposed by the world. However, society often demonizes those who seek power, branding them as ambitious in a negative sense, as if wanting to rise beyond mediocrity is a sin. But what if this belief is flawed? What if true power isn't about dominance or destruction, but about self-mastery, about breaking free from limitations and forging a life that is entirely your own? Unlike the traditional notion that equates power with control, Nietzsche's concept of the will to power was not about manipulation, but about creation. It was the relentless pursuit of becoming something greater than before. Think of an artist, not satisfied with mere imitation, but driven to craft something original, something that breathes life and meaning into the world. Or a scientist, challenging the status quo, pushing the frontiers of knowledge to redefine what is possible. This kind of power doesn't seek to subjugate others. Instead, it is the force behind progress, behind the evolution of thought, behind every great achievement humanity has ever known. But not all who seek power do so with noble intent. The road to power is treacherous, capable of leading one to enlightenment or absolute ruin. The defining factor isn't the power itself, but the motive behind it. Do you pursue power to impose your will upon others, to extract rather than contribute, to feed your own insecurities by controlling those around you? Or do you seek power to transcend your limitations, to forge an unshakable mind, to build something meaningful? The question remains, is power inherently corrupt? No, it is merely a magnifier, an amplifier of what already exists within. A sword in the hands of a just warrior brings protection, while in the grip of a tyrant, it becomes a tool of oppression. Power is neither good nor evil. It is a neutral force, shaped entirely by the one who wields it. The challenge isn't to fear power, but to understand it, to master it with discipline, wisdom, and unwavering purpose. Nietzsche's philosophy invites us to reject the passive existence dictated by society and instead carve out our own paths, ones defined by strength, courage, and relentless self-improvement. True power isn't in controlling the world. It's in conquering the weaknesses within yourself, in becoming something so formidable that external forces lose their grip on your destiny. If this exploration has challenged your perspective and opened your mind to new possibilities, then take the next step in your journey towards self-mastery. Subscribe to this channel and become part of a community dedicated to wisdom, growth, and transformation. Don't just consume knowledge, apply it. Hit the like button, share this with those who need to hear it, and stay tuned for daily insights that will push you beyond your limits. The journey toward true power begins not with seeking control over others, but with gaining control over yourself. Let's walk this path together. Slave morality, in contrast, is the morality of those who lack power. It glorifies submission, humility, and suffering, framing power as inherently corrupt. Those who embrace it believe that morality is defined by self-sacrifice, obedience, and passivity. This moral system evolved as a way for the powerless to find meaning in their suffering, but it often leaves them vulnerable to exploitation. While the strong act decisively, those who subscribe to slave morality wait for justice, hoping that fairness will somehow prevail on its own. They condemn ambition, believing that power is something to be distrusted rather than pursued. But here lies the uncomfortable truth. Slave morality does not stop the ruthless from rising, it enables them. By discouraging ambition and shaming the desire for power, it leaves control in the hands of those who lack moral restraint. While the virtuous hesitate, the cunning take control. In a world where hesitation means defeat, the outcome is inevitable.